Hi guys, this is going to be my labor and delivery video. I know it's a little late, but that's alright, better late than never. And I really wanted to make this video just so that I can look back on it and remember my experience. Yeah, so I guess I'll just start off from the top. February 3rd, it was a Sunday. I went into work at I think 8 o'clock in the morning, and it was my last day of work before taking my maternity leave. She's just making noises in her sleep. So yeah, it was my last day of work before taking my maternity leave, and I was done probably around 2 or 3 in the afternoon. As soon as I got home, I started feeling really crampy and just not feeling quite right. So I decided to lay down and rest a little bit. That didn't really help with the crampiness. And later on that day, I realized I was just having really bad Braxton Hicks. And it was just like a constant crampiness. So I wasn't thinking Braxton Hicks at first. Yeah, so they were about every 30 to 40 minutes through the night. I didn't get any sleep because as soon as I would start to fall asleep, I would get another one, and it just felt pretty impossible to get some sleep. So then Monday morning came around, and they were starting to ease up a little bit. Then through the day, they were, I'd say, about every hour to hour and a half apart. So not that close together, not close enough to call the doctor or anything, but I knew something was happening with my body. Monday night rolled around and they picked back up. They were about every 15 to 20 minutes. As you can guess, I didn't get any sleep that night either, so that was night 2 of no sleep. So yeah, then around 10 p.m., around 8 a.m., they got to be every 10 minutes apart. And then they stopped around 9 a.m. So this is on Tuesday, the 5th, which was actually my due date. Not my original due date. My original due date was February 11th, but the due date they gave me according to my ultrasound was February 5th. So this was my ultrasound due date. They were about every 10 minutes apart, and then they stopped around 9 a.m. Then through the day, they were just really sporadic and random, a few each hour, some close together, some further apart, not really creating a pattern or making enough of an impact for me to call the doctors. Then around 1 a.m. on the 6th, so that would bring us to Wednesday, they were every 5 minutes. I went to the bathroom, and because one of them just like, I dozed off for a couple minutes, and one of these contractions just like shot me out of bed. It hurt so bad. I jumped up. I couldn't really breathe through it. It lasted for, I'd say, like a good 2 minutes. It was just really painful and really uncomfortable. I went to the bathroom because I know this is going to sound weird, but every time I would have a really strong one, the only thing that was really comfortable for me was to go and sit on the toilet. She's making the cutest noises. So yeah, I would go sit on the toilet when I was having a really strong one. So that's what I did when I got this one. I went and I sat on the toilet until it passed, and then I went to the bathroom. When I wiped, my mucus plug came out. And it wasn't just a piece of it, it was the entire thing, I'm guessing, because it was huge. It wasn't tinged with blood like I hear some ladies say theirs is, and didn't really have any color at all. It was just clear, but it was huge. It was like, I don't know if this is TMI for you ladies, but if you're having a baby, you're gonna go through this stuff anyways. So it was probably about like that long, and it was pretty thick around. It was like probably about like that. It's just this like really thick mucus. I know that sounds gross, but it's what happens. So yeah, I lost that. I know that's not really an indication of labor, but with the way my contractions had been so strong, and I was just feeling so horrible, and they started to be really close together around this time. I went ahead and I called triage, and I told them I lost my mucus plug. I'm not sure if I'm leaking fluid. It kind of felt like I was, but I wasn't sure. It was just a really, really slow leak. So she told me to go ahead and put a pad in and wait an hour and see if the pad gets soaked, and call them back. So I hung up and I waited, and I tried to wait an hour. I couldn't wait the entire hour. My contractions were getting so close together. They were about 4 to 5 minutes apart. They were really, really strong. I could not just ignore them. I couldn't do anything while I was having one. It was just horrible. I was in so much pain, and I was exhausted because this was, again, another sleepless night. So Sunday, no sleep. Monday, no sleep. Tuesday, no sleep. And we're into Wednesday. So I called her back, and I was like, I can't wait the entire hour. Can I just come in and get checked and see if I'm in labor, because this is getting so tiring. So she told me to go ahead and come in. She sounded pretty doubtful, though. She said first time labors can take a long time, and are you sure you don't want to just stay at home? And she was like trying to convince me not to come to the hospital. I was like, no, I'm sure I don't want to stay at home. I've been at home for the past 3 nights, and I really want to come in and get checked and see if things are progressing. So I went in. It was at this point, I got there at 3 o'clock in the morning. So on Wednesday, 3 o'clock in the morning. The first thing she did was check me and hook me up to the contraction monitors and a monitor for the baby's heartbeat. It was showing that I was having contractions, but it wasn't showing that they were as close together as I felt like they were. It was showing that they were just really random and sporadic and not really in any kind of pattern. But she checked me anyways. I was at 3 centimeters, and I had a doctor's appointment the Thursday before, and I was not dilated at all. My cervix was up really high, and he said I was really tight. So between Thursday and Wednesday, sometime in there, I had dilated 3 centimeters. She told me that my water had not broke, and if I wanted to stay for a little while and see if I progressed while I was there, or if I wanted to go home. I was like, why would I go home? I'm 3 centimeters. I know I've been having contractions. I know something's going on. I'll stay and see if anything happens. So they monitored me for almost an hour, and she came back in and she checked me again, and I was at 5. So in a little less than an hour, I dilated 2 more centimeters, even though it was showing that my contractions weren't in any pattern. But I knew what I was feeling, and I knew they were contractions, and I knew they were strong. And yes, so they went ahead and admitted me. By that time, it was around 4 o'clock in the morning. I went ahead and I called my mom. I told her, well, they admitted me, so I'm not going home without a baby. And she said she was on her way. The only people I wanted there with me while I was laboring was my boyfriend and my mother. So she was on her way. She's making so many noises. Let's see here. I have to look at my notes. My contractions started getting really, really strong, and I was having a lot of back contractions. This lady came in with this little like ultrasound thingy to make sure the baby was head down and to see if she was face up or face down. And it turns out that she was face up, and that's why I was having such horrible back contractions. Yeah, my back was killing me with each contraction. I felt like my hips were going to break. I felt like my lower back was going to snap. It was horrible. I wanted to try and refrain from getting an epidural, but with the way that I was feeling, I had to get one. And I don't regret getting it at that point. I was in so much pain, and it helped relax me. So yeah, around 5:30 a.m. I got the epidural. I tried to take a nap, but it didn't really work. The baby's heartbeat started to drop, so they had to break my water, and this was around 8:15 in the morning. They broke my water and put a little like monitor thing on her head. It's like this little stick or tube thing with a little metal piece on the end, and they insert it and they attach it to the baby's head so that they can get an accurate heartbeat rating, because the monitor on my stomach wasn't picking up her heart rate and it was dropping pretty low. She was getting stressed out, and so yeah, they put that on her. They changed my position because I guess my position had something to do with her heartbeat going lower, with where her umbilical cord was placed. So they changed my position, they got that monitor on her, and her heart rate picked back up, and she was doing good. She was happy. When the water was broke, they said it looked really clean. It didn't look like she had passed any meconium or anything. I got checked again, and I was still at 5 centimeters, so this is after 8 o'clock, and I was still at 5. So they decided to start me on Pitocin since I had been there since 3 o'clock in the morning and only dilated 2 centimeters. So they started me on a low dose of Pitocin. Some point after I got the Pitocin, I was still leaking some fluid from when they broke my water, and the nurse said that it looked like she had now passed meconium, and it didn't look like it was a lot, but they still wanted to monitor me and make sure that the baby was doing okay, because there is risk for infection and such if they do poop. I can't think of the words that I'm trying to say. I'm having such a mommy brain right now. So let's see here. I did end up falling asleep for about an hour, and I woke up to get checked again. So this was around like 10, and I was at 8 centimeters. So in that little while, I had dilated 3 centimeters. Then around noon, they checked me again, and the nurse said that I was at 10. And she said, "Oh my gosh, you're at 10, you're fully effaced, you're ready to push, let's get you into a different room." I'm not exactly sure why they moved me from one labor and delivery room to another labor and delivery room, but they did. And when I got into the new room, they wanted to get a second opinion on how far dilated I was. So she had the OB that was on call check me, and the OB looked at me and she kind of like laughed, and she's like, "No, honey, you're still at 8 centimeters. And the other nurse that checked me was like, I'm so sorry. Everybody has their own way of measuring. I must have just made a mistake. I'm so sorry I got your hopes up. I was like, oh, it's okay. You know, I was so excited to finally push and get things going, and to find out that I was still at 8 was just crushing. But I decided it was a good time to go ahead and try and rest before I had to push and save up some energy. So they let me wait a little while, waited about an hour. I tried to get some sleep. It wasn't really happening, but I was dozing in and out because I was so exhausted. I hadn't slept, and this was my 4th day of no sleep now. Then I got checked again, and she said I was between 8 and 9, so I was almost 9, and a little more thinned out. Then at that point, my epidural started to run out. I was starting to feel all of my contractions. Now, my contractions were a bit stronger at this point because of the Pitocin. I guess Pitocin does bring your contractions on stronger and more frequent. Well, it's supposed to, so that it can help move things along quicker. But anyways, my contractions were really, really strong. My epidural ran out. I was feeling all of my pain in my hips and my back, and it was horrible. I never got that tightening at the top of my stomach like they said contractions would feel like. It was just all in my back and all in my hips, and it felt like it was deep inside my bones that was hurting. It didn't feel like muscle pain. It felt like bone pain. It felt like my bones were breaking. So they called the anesthesiologist to come back and redo my, not redo my epidural, but to check it and give me another dose of medicine to see if that would help. So they called him. It took him about an hour to an hour and a half to come in and give me the medicine. And by this point, my epidural was completely gone. It was just completely gone, and I was feeling everything. I was almost to the point of tears. It was just, it was an excruciating hour and a half. So he came in and he gave me the medicine, and everything went back to feeling just peachy, even though I was exhausted. Yeah. So then, I'm sorry, this video is like all over the place. I decided to get checked again as soon as he was done giving me the epidural, and I was still at 8 to 9 centimeters. The doctor, the OB on call, told me that if I didn't dilate again by 6 p.m., that I would most likely have to get a C-section. Well, at the thought of that, I teared up. That was like my worst fear going into this labor, was having it result in a surgery. I knew there was so many risks for the baby and so many risks for me, and surgery just scares the heck out of me. So when she told me that, I started to tear up. I was like, please just give me some more time. It hasn't been 24 hours since you broke my water. Just give my body a little more time, maybe turn the Pitocin up. I don't know. I really don't want a C-section. And so she said, well, we'll give you till 6 p.m. So, because I hadn't dilated since around noon. So she's giving me 6 hours to try and dilate before resulting in a C-section. So 6 o'clock comes around, and she didn't get to come back and check me, which was good because that meant I had some more time. It was an hour and a half later before she could come back in because she was stuck in another labor and delivery. So she got preoccupied with another patient, didn't get to come back and check me, and by this point it was around 7:30 when she did come back in, and I was almost at 10. I wasn't quite there, but I was almost there. So because I had progressed a little bit within that, within those hours, she did tell me that she would give me some more time and that I didn't have to go straight to the C-section, since I did progress at least a little bit. Even if it wasn't a lot, I was still progressing. It wasn't like things had just stopped. So I just had a little bit of cervix left, and I was almost at 10. Then around 9:30, I was at 10 and fully thinned out. But the OB was stuck in a C-section, and so the nurse that checked me said, well, why don't we just let you get some rest, and we'll just wait until she is done with the other labor, and give you some time to gain up some energy before you have to push. So I was ecstatic at this point. I was like, oh my God, I did it. I'm at 10. It took me forever, but I finally made it here, and I was just, I was elated. I was so happy that I didn't have to go into the C-section, and that I would get my chance at a vaginal birth. So during this waiting period, my epidural started to run out again. It wasn't quite, I don't even know how to explain it. Like, it didn't feel like it was as strong as it was before, but it was still, I was still pretty numb. Well, by the time it was time to push, around 10:30, it was pretty much completely gone. I didn't want to call the anesthesiologist back because I knew he would take a while, and I didn't want to wait that long to push. And also, I didn't want to be completely numb when it was time to push, because I wanted to be able to feel my contractions at least a little bit, and use that to help me push her out. So I opted to not get it topped up, and I could feel everything. So around 10:30, they got me ready to push. I did a few practice pushes before the OB got in there, and the nurse that was helping me do these practice pushes told me, oh my God, you need to stop because she'll be here in no time. We need to wait for the OB to get in here. She said with those few practice pushes, she could see the head descending down, and that they were really, really strong, and I was doing an awesome job, and that I should wait. So she was just smiling. That was the cutest thing ever. Okay, anyways, so I waited. Well, I tried to wait. I was just feeling so much pressure and like the urge to push, and it was so hard not to. Finally, the OB came in, and I got to start pushing. The nurse that was helping me throughout most of the end of my labor, her shift was over at 11 o'clock, so she clocked out and a new nurse came in. But she was so excited to see my baby that she waited around and she watched me push. I pushed until 11:55, and she was finally out. So it was around an hour and a half, right? Yeah, it was around an hour and a half of pushing, which isn't too bad for a first child. They were expecting it to take a lot longer, but I guess my pushes were really strong, and they told me I did an awesome job. I did. They did have to give me an episiotomy because her head wasn't quite fitting right, but they got her out, and it was just, it was the most amazing feeling in the world. She didn't cry right away. They didn't want her to because she had passed that meconium. They had the NICU waiting by the warming table to suction everything out and make sure that her lungs were clean before she took her first breath in. Because of that, Rogelio didn't get to cut the umbilical cord because they had to cut it right away to get her to the table. That was a little disappointing, but as long as she was okay, it was fine. We didn't care about anything like that as long as she was okay. So they got to go over and see her right away. I didn't get to see her right away. I didn't get to hear her cry right away. I was pretty disappointed about that, but once they did bring her over to me, it was just, it was the happiest moment of my entire life. And I'm starting to tear up, and I hate crying, so I'm going to just stop myself there. She was 6 pounds, 10 ounces, 20 and a half inches long. It was 11:55 p.m. on February 6th, and I was a mommy. So I know you saw her in my other video, but that was a week ago. And she is so much bigger already. And here's my little darling. Oh, she's so sleepy right now. Oh, so sleepy. Oh, and pooping. Yeah. So yeah, that is my labor and delivery story. I wouldn't change my experience for the world. I know, they say after you have your child, all the pain just kind of goes away. And that's right. Like, I remember being in so much pain, but I cannot remember what the pain felt like. All I can remember is how excited and how happy I was, and I really can't remember like what the actual pain felt like. All I know is that I went through it and I had her, and now she's in my arms, and that's all that matters. So I hope everybody's having a good day, and I'll see you for my next update. Bye, guys.